Oh, we got another red rock. There we go. Oh, a green crab. Isn't that one of those green ones? Ooh. That's one of those green looking ones, isn't it?
Yeah, let's see.
Never seen this crab before. Look at that. So weird. What is up, Outdoor Mavericks? Welcome back to the channel and today's episode vlog where we're going to talk all about European green crabs. And if you guys watched the latest crabbing episode on the channel where I went out with my uncle on the North Oregon coast, we ran into a crab that I've never caught before. And due to some of the feedback that you guys shared, some people who messaged me who were talking about green European crabs, I figured it was a great time to provide some educational information and talk about European green crabs because they're here on the West Coast. What should we do about them? Should I be scared out of my brains the fact that I caught this crab from Europe on the West Coast and how that could impact Dungeness crabbing going forward? So the first thing with European green crabs is they're not from the United States. They're mostly in the Atlantic and Baltic Sea in Europe, but they've made their way over to the East Coast and the Western United States in the last 30 years. And the biggest thing to note about European green crabs is they are invasive, and that is a problem when we're talking about the long-term outlook of crabbing here on the Western United States. Now, European green crabs have the same diet and feed on the same things like mussels and clams and other species that Dungeness crabs and red rock crabs also go after. The key thing with green crabs from Europe is that they can flourish in different temperatures of water, whether it's warm or the colder water that we have here in the Western United States, which makes it easier for them to adapt to different climates and water, but also become invasive in different waters very quickly. The timing of catching that green European crab with my uncle was actually fascinating because the day before in Washington State, the governor actually signed a letter allowing Washington State Fish and Wildlife to eradicate European green crabs in the Washington Puget Sound area because they are becoming overly invasive. And the reason why the Washington State governor sent this letter out to allow Fish and Wildlife to start eradicating the green crabs in Washington is they are taking over and utilizing the same food sources that Dungeness crab are. So when you have an invasive crab like the green crab coming in and foraging on the same food sources as the Dungeness crab, we've seen this in other instances around the globe where species can be eradicated or reduced significantly because an invasive species has come in and utilized the same food sources. So this is a critical thing to understand and know that the Washington governor has actually made this decision now and given the state Fish and Wildlife the authority to go eradicate these green crabs. Now, when it comes to European green crabs, you can absolutely cook them and eat them. That's actually not a problem. They're not toxic at all. They're actually a really good eat. I've actually eaten the green European crab and they taste just fine. However, they're not Dungeness crab. Don't get me wrong. I will eat Dungeness crab every single day of the year if I had to because it is just the best crab out in the world. So when it comes to European green crabs, you can actually cook them and eat them. It's actually completely fine to do that. They're not toxic. They're just invasive. And those are two different things that are completely separated and not tied together. So if you come across a green crab from Europe, you could certainly harvest it, cook it, and eat it. Now, the crabs are much smaller. There's not as much meat in them, and they definitely do not taste as good as Dungeness crab. Now, what can and can't you do? Well, in the state of Oregon, in my home state, you can harvest these green crabs. In fact, when I emailed ODFW, they suggested and recommended and said you should take these as part of your harvest. Now, they don't qualify under Dungeness or red rock limits, which is 12 Dungeness a day and 24 red rocks a day. The green crabs actually fit in the other crab section or crustaceans, which is up to 10 per day. So if you're out crabbing per person per day, you could take out 10 green European crabs per day, which is good. Now, I'm less familiar with the state of Washington regulations, but with the latest proposal from the governor, they want to eradicate them. So if you're crabbing up in Washington, of course, follow the regulations, but if you can 100% absolutely harvest those green crabs and take them home, get them out of the ecosystem because they are being invasive and we don't want to lose our Dungeness crab populations. So as recreational crabbers, what can we do when we encounter European green crabs? Well, the first thing we can do is harvest them because it is allowed in the regulations. Secondly, cook them, eat them. They're fine. There's still crab meat in there and it's still delicious. Not as delicious as Dungeness crab, but it's still good. Thirdly, we can provide as recreational anglers information to ODFW, WFW, and California Fish and Wildlife. So if we're starting to harvest more of these crabs, more crabs in pots in different areas up and down the western United States coastline, this is good information to share with Fish and Wildlife to help them understand what we're seeing out in the field and provide that real-time feedback. Now, the biggest question is, should we panic and freak out? And the answer to that is absolutely not. This is not a huge problem. There's a certain section of Washington where the crabs are being very invasive and they absolutely have to eradicate them. But this is something we should definitely keep an eye on. But for now, no one needs to panic. Nobody needs to freak out. You know, we got one green crab in all the years that I've been crabbing on the Oregon coast with my uncle, with my grandparents, one green crab in 25, 30 years of crabbing. So there's no need to panic if you're a recreational crabber, but we have a duty to make sure we take them out of the system and share information back with Fish and Wildlife to ensure that our dungeness crab populations remain healthy and we keep this invasive species, this European crab, out of the western United States. And I know today's video is a little bit different than some of the episodes or some of the tips videos that we've been doing on the channel, but I feel as somebody who loves the outdoors and talks about sharing the gifts of the outdoors on this channel, that we need to also educate ourselves, and as outdoor enthusiasts and as fishermen, as recreational crabbers, as hunters, we need to share vital information with each other so we can educate ourselves, but also learn and teach others along the way as well. Teach the next generations of what we need to do and what the proper thing is to do. So thank you guys for watching today's educational vlog episode. Smash the thumbs up on the video, guys. Hit that subscribe button down below. And don't forget, and as always, you guys, the outdoors is a gift. Share it with others.